Guys, how you doing? It's Stephen here, back with another video, and I found myself in some kind of Manchester City limbo. Usually I'm doing a 5 things learned or a preview or a reaction or a watch along. Today's like just a spare day, so I was like, what should I do? What do I rest or do I talk about Manchester City transfers and news? I decided to do that. Anyway, today's a kind of little in-between day, so I thought I'd take a look at some of the rumours going around on the internet and chat about transfers. And if you like this content, by the way, these quick, short, 10-minute bursts of transfer news and Manchester City news discussed, I can do them more regularly, so let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this kind of content. And also don't forget, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got loads of stories to go through today, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to start initially with Erling Haaland, mainly because I've not talked about him on a video at length other than from throwaway comments and videos for some time now. So I want to talk about Haaland because the last time I talked about Haaland, there wasn't really any update, but at the moment, from a few days ago at very least, all the reports suggest that Manchester City are ahead of the likes of Chelsea and Real Madrid in the chase for Erling Haaland. And my personal opinions, because I get asked this a lot, is yeah, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. Get him at Manchester City. He is a difference maker. He does change the game for Manchester City, and he is a generational talent that we definitely need at this club. And basically, I just wanted to say that if you're somehow watching Cheeky, if you're somehow watching Pep or Brian Marwood or Umar Barada or Khaldoon, sign him. He's really good at football. Throw the money at him. And I do actually think City do have the intention to go for him. I do believe all the little bits of reports and all the little in-the-know people who say he's our A-star target. He's the one at the top of the pile. And I do think City do have some money burning in the bank for a big splash. Everyone always goes, oh, we won't go for 60 million for a transfer. I don't think that's true. I think we've been waiting for a time when we needed to go for 60 million for a transfer, and I don't think there's any better time to do that when you're trying to replace one of the greatest strikers of all time in Sergio Aguero, and we are trying to replace him, unfortunately, because age catches up to all of us. There's no escape from time. So I think Haaland, basically, we've got a very, very strong argument. You've got to bear in mind as well, there was those fees where it's like 150 million euros will be asked for, and you've got to bear in mind that's about 128 million pounds. You've also got to bear in mind that we've got the Sancho 15% sell-on fee. Say Sancho was in theory worth 100 million quid, that's 15 million pounds off, and all of a sudden you're getting a lot closer to around 110-ish. I don't think it's doable. I think it's definitely doable, especially if Haaland wants to come to Manchester City. And I think we've got a very strong case compared to most. His dad literally captained Manchester City. He gets to replace the guy he grew up idolising in Aguero as a Manchester City fan. He is a City fan. He is a City fan. There's so many photos in wearing Man City shirts. I'm sure he's got a soft spot for Leeds as well, given his dad, but he definitely has a soft spot for Manchester City. He gets to come to a team with the best manager in the world. He gets to come to arguably the best team in the world at the moment, with maybe the other best youngster in the world in Foden, with the best passer in the world in De Bruyne, and some of the best midfielders in the world. And it just makes so much sense. Sign the tink, Haaland. Next story today came out of nowhere today. There's always been these kind of like Jack Grealish rumours going around. And this time it was Chris Wheeler over at Daily Mail. I don't know what tier he is as a source. I have no idea. But according to Chris Wheeler, Jack Grealish is excited at the idea of playing for Manchester City Football Club and being part of such a multi-talented squad at Man City. That's a big claim, man. A big claim. Jack Grealish is a fantastic footballer, a very, very able footballer, and definitely someone who could fit into this Manchester City side without a question. I've got no doubt that if Grealish came in, he would be brilliant, he'd be useful, and he would be very, very, very effective. But the question mark, I guess, is would City be willing to spend what Aston Villa would want? Now, if I was to guess, I would guess they'd ask around 100 million for for Grealish. Is he worth that? Well, he's only worth that if someone's willing to pay it. That's simply how economics work. And I don't think City would be willing to pay 100 million if they'd just splashed over 100 million potentially on Erling Haaland. I may be wrong there, but I feel like they wouldn't be willing to do that for a homegrown player because it's a precedent that they aren't probably going to be willing to follow. The difference between Haaland and Grealish, and with all due respect to Grealish, is that Haaland, at least they could turn around and go, yeah, but look at his record in the Champions League. He's banging goals in. And I don't think they'd want to make a statement like that for Grealish, having not seen him at a bigger level. It's not his fault, of course, because Villa, it's not his fault that he's at Villa, but I think they'd be more reluctant given the fact that we haven't seen him, and basically, they couldn't go for anyone again without being asked for 100 million, basically, so I don't think they'd do it twice in one summer. But either way, Grealish is fantastic. Do we need him? Probably not. And we probably don't need him. I mean, if he was to come to the squad, I could maybe see Gundogan maybe dropping deeper, us not replacing Fernandinho, and Gundogan rotates with Rodri to free up space for Grealish potentially, or maybe Mahrez or someone like would have to go, or Sterling. Well, Sterling's never going to go. He's not going to go anywhere. I don't know. Either way, we don't need Grealish. He's fantastic, but I would take him in a heartbeat if you wanted to come and City can afford it. But I don't personally see this one happening. I think Grealish has kind of made his bed and will be at Villa next season simply because he signed a very expensive contract, and I can't see them letting him go for cheap, and no one, in my opinion, will pay for that. The third one on the list is a new one to discuss on this channel. Nuno Mendes. If you don't know much about Nuno Mendes, I don't blame you. He's a very young footballer. He's had a breakout season over in the Portuguese league. He's good, man. He plays for Sporting, and he's just recently been called up as well for the Portuguese national team, despite only being 18 years old. He turns 19 in June, and he looks a very exciting player. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'll be honest, I hadn't really heard about him because I hadn't paid any attention. But what I do know is that they've got a very exciting right back as well. Pedro Porro has now been called up to the Spain squad, and he's actually a Manchester City player. They've got a right to buy him, but then we can buy him back for a pretty cheap price as well. So maybe there's a bargaining deal there. That Pedro Porro is fantastic, by the way. That's another one there. Like, in another time, I'd want him in the first team, but we've got Walker and Cancelo. It's so difficult because Pedro Porro is fantastic, but he's having a breakout season. But maybe we'll go for the left back. Now, Nuno Mendes, if you haven't seen much about him, he's a bulldozing, skillful, phenomenal fullback. He's just proper got it all. He's intelligent. He can drift inside. He can beat people. He can get forward. He looks really astonishingly good, and it's why people aren't really kind of surprised at him being valued at around 50 million euros, because he is that good. Now, interestingly enough, Sporting apparently accept that they have to sell him. He will be sold soon because he's that big a deal, and obviously when you're that good in Portuguese league, someone's going to come knocking on the door and he will end up going. But interestingly, City have said that according to reports, City would consider signing him, then loaning him back for a season to further aid his development, which is very interesting given the fact that it would be an awful lot of money. Having said that, it may not be the worst idea. Now, you got to bear in mind, City have adapted into this kind of like three at the back system, so Kyle Walker can play there when we've got Cancelo on the left. But if Cancelo's on the right, Zinchenko's done a very good job, man. At what point did we just accept that Zinchenko's really good? And Mendy hasn't been perfect, but he's not the worst as a backup every now and then. You know, he was all right the other day against Fulham. He's not great, but he's okay. And given the fact that we're not really playing like two marauding wing-backs, is there an argument to suggest that Mendes would be all right? Over at loan at Sporting for a year if we signed him and went him back, and then we could just get him for the year after, given that Zinchenko has probably proved himself more than capable, given the fact that we've got Laporte and Ake who can play there, given the fact that we've got Cancelo who can play there, then we've got Walker who rarely gets injured, touch wood. It might just be that we don't need a left back this summer. I know we feel like we do, but come to think of it, City might go, but do we? We've got the players. We'll see. Anyway, he looks very good, and City seem to be definitely in for him. There's too much noise around that. Let's see how that one unfolds. The fourth thing I want to talk about is Stonesy, man. He tweeted out, "I'm delighted to be back involved with England. It's always an honour." And he is. He is back in the England squad, and he should be delighted about it because he should have been there a long time ago. Anyway, Gareth Southgate had this to say about John Stones. He said, "John deserves huge credit for turning that form around, finding a level of consistency. He's played a big part in what looks like a hugely successful season for Man City, although they'll say they've won nothing yet. He fits the profile of how we want to play. He's comfortable on the ball, speed and bringing it out, and it's great to have him. You have to give players a lot of credit when they bounce back, come back from difficult injuries, and when they regain form. Indeed, you do, Mr. Gareth Southgate." Yeah, Stones is fantastic. I'm very happy for him. He's England's best defender, in my personal opinion. Of course, I'm going to say that because he's been literally probably the second best defender in the league this season alongside Ruben Diaz, if not the best, really. But either way, Stones, he's fantastic. I never saw this return in form. I didn't see it. I'll hold my hands up and admit it. I think most people didn't. And if anyone did, fair play to you guys. We knew it was capable of it. Did we think it would happen? Probably not, especially when we signed Diaz and Laporte was coming back, and then we had Ake. It was like, oh, Stones, man, he hasn't got a chance. But look where he is now. He's a great example of why you never give up in life, because Stonesy, I'm so happy for him. A fantastic footballer. A good lad, and an example of persistence over and belief over giving up, basically. A deserved recall, and he should be the first name on the team sheet, in my opinion, in that defence. And finally, some heartbreaking Sergio Aguero updates. Now, there was rumours coming out last night that sources close said that Aguero would be open to joining another Premier League team, which is horrible and terrifying, and a lot of people didn't like that news and had to go with all the news aggregators like Extra and Report and all that kind of stuff for reporting it, which they kind of missed the point there, really. I mean, if two Northwest journalists who are part of the Man City press pack, in this instance Martin Blackburn at The Sun and Jack Gordon at the Daily Mail, suddenly both report the exact same thing, that says to me one thing, guys: it's a press briefing. And if you know what a press briefing is when a camp, be it Aguero's camp or Man City or whatever, they decide to leak some news just to make it reach the press to try and force a reaction, or just to get it out there. And this is clearly a press briefing. It's clearly come from Aguero's camp, and it's clearly for pretty sad reasons, if I'm being honest. Now, I think we all know Aguero clearly wants to stay, but Manchester City, I would guess, aren't really sure yet. And you can turn around and go, yeah, no, but we do want him to stay. I'm sure in principle we want Aguero to stay, but we want him in principle to stay based on who he used to be, not who he is necessarily right now this second. Because if City definitely want him to stay, they would have already offered him the contract. The fact to me, the fact that they haven't already offered a contract says to me that they're not really sure if they do. It depends entirely on his fitness and form. So I'm sure they want him to prove him. I'm sure City go like, go Sergio, prove us wrong. We'll offer you a contract if you prove us wrong, but there's no guarantee. So unfortunately, that means Aguero doesn't know his future, and unfortunately it's fucking shite. I mean, it's Sergio Aguero. We all want him round, don't we, in Manchester City? But unfortunately, this is just a lay of the land these days. We've got to see how it unfolds. We've got to see what happens. It's sad. The idea of Aguero going this season with no fans there is terrible and awful and crap, but that's life at the moment, unfortunately. It's just how it is. I mean, football and life goes on, and time doesn't wait for anyone, as I was saying before. But I'm hoping if he does go, he doesn't go to another Premier League club. I don't think he will go to another Premier League club. I think he's put out that there to show how desperate he is in terms of like, I'm sad, man. I want to be in this country still. I want to play here, and notice me, Manchester City. That's what he's saying, I reckon. I understand his emotions and feelings, but I don't really think anyone's done anything wrong. I don't think City have done it wrong. I don't think Aguero's doing anything wrong putting these press briefings out. He's just frustrated, and it comes from a sad place, I reckon, when something like 10 seasons. This is his 10th season now, by the way. So when you've had that many seasons here, it's like, I know it doesn't seem like it's 10th season, by the way, but it literally is. If you go on Wikipedia and count the seasons, he's played 10 seasons. It doesn't feel like this would be a fitting ending for him, but who knows? Hopefully, it's all resolved amicably. Hopefully, City win a bunch of trophies. He's picking up the Champions League, maybe. Who knows? Touch wood and all that kind of stuff. And if he does go, it's glorious. And we get a parade because life's back to normal and everything will be good. Who knows, man? Who knows? Either way, I do think the reports were correct. I do think Aguero would consider other clubs, but ultimately, when it came down to it, if he did go, I think he'd probably just go abroad. He'd probably go somewhere sunny with nicer weather. I reckon he would probably just leave, but I don't think he's going to rule out any other team because I feel like he probably realises he's got to keep his options open, unfortunately, but fingers crossed he should be alright in that front and not... Hopefully he stays. Hopefully he proves he can stay, but I personally made my peace that he may be leaving. It's not what you want to hear, but it's just how I see the bigger picture, unfortunately, because I think if we're going to get someone like Haaland, something's got to give, and I know we can turn around and act like we've got unlimited funds, but we just haven't, unfortunately. At some point, financial fair play will have another go at us, and we have to make sure we can fund it. I know we kind of signed, Ake for loads of money and Ferran Torres, but their wages would have been covered and then some by Silva's departure. So, unfortunately, I think if you're going to Aguero, you'll be on 300 grand a week. We'll probably have to replace that with Haaland if Aguero goes. That's how we'll replace the wages. Guys, that's my little roundup of all the transfer news and all the stories currently going around the world of Manchester City. If you enjoyed this little short form content running through all these headlines, do let me know. I can do more of it. For now, though, make sure to hit that like button. Go check out the 5 Things Learned video from yesterday. Subscribe. Thank you to my Patreon producer, Ahmed Al-Ali. If you want to help support the channel a little bit, patreon.com/Esteemed Company, or you can become a member at youtube.com/Esteemed Company /join. For now, though, have a wonderful evening. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. In a bit.